I'm slightly concerned about HS2 because of the word speed. My question is high speed important? Because it doesn't really come up in the vision very much. The vision is more about people and places and that sort of thing. And is it not more important to spend some money on the place and creating place than actually getting from A to B as fast as we possibly can?
It isn't about speed. It's not necessarily about cutting the journey time. That's a positive outcome of trying to upgrade, trying to make sure that the capacity is increased. So speed is a positive byproduct, if you like, to the other benefits that HS2 hopes that it will deliver. Yes, place and how the regenerative potential impact of HS2 on cities is something to consider, as is the impact it will have on those rural communities who maybe feel that they won't benefit in any particular way. HS2 has to think hard about how it delivers a narrative to the British people, to the British public, which explains itself. And I think it's got work to do.
Is it sufficiently engaged with the whole of the UK, or is it still seen very much as a London-centric project?
Not if you're in Birmingham, not at all. I mean, they are absolutely so excited that that it's coming to town. So no, not in that respect, I don't think.
Sadie, in terms of, I loved you sort of talking about housing and transport because they're two of my kind of key passions. How do you see transport is going to help us unlock the housing issue for London? What's your initial thoughts on that?
My gut feeling is, of course, it should. If you can commute back and forth quickly and easily to areas where there's large capacity to build new housing, it kind of makes sense that will happen. I think housing is very different to smaller commercial centres. I mean, you look at Stratford, and if you look at those new areas of regeneration, and then you look at Croydon, which was always supposed to be this kind of new London city. There are some successes. There are some places that haven't been as successful in terms of the transport connection and the ambition of what that might bring. So it needs clever thinking about, and I think that the areas that it will go to need to think hard before it comes, how they can get ready for the transport. So I think that you can't wait for these things to happen. You have to start to be proactive and put your own bits in place, if you like, to make sure that when that rail line or when that station arrives, you're ready for it.
But I suppose what London has got is the 2050 infrastructure plan,
yes,
which in my mind is quite a good document in that it does start off with what the need is, and then works back to what the infrastructure. Do you think that document is central to what you're going to be doing? Presumably, is there stuff? It'll
be part of it. I mean, there's a huge amount of research. There's a huge amount of work that's being done in all. Yes, not just infrastructure, but housing or whatever it may be, energy, broadband. That we need to collect as it's an infrastructure commission. So yes, it will be looking at those specific things, but it's also much not just London wide also.
To what extent are your reviews looking at opportunities to drive down cost and promote affordability and drive down risk of the delivery of the scheme? In terms of how design is feeding into the product?
It will be part and parcel of every review that we take, that we do. We're not specifically looking yet at those independent areas, if you like. So cost is something we're totally cognizant of, obviously, as a group of people, and how that you can add value is something that the design team or the panel is key to delivering. It's part of the vision document. So in that it's part of that, but it's not. I think if you pull out those elements, that's not what we're there to do. We're there to make sure that design delivers better value. We're not there to make sure HS2 it's sort of part and parcel of the whole thing. Does that make?
Well, one of the challenges, I suppose, with HS2 is that you have got a certain brief to deliver the railway line, but then around that,
it's their brief.
Yeah, but
yeah.
okay, but around, no, not you.
Not
okay,
me.
no, but around that, they've also interacting with the wider communities. So presumably, you're working with HS2 on their designs, but then you're also working on the wider, say, at Euston, the wider designs that Network Rail has got, or at any of the big stations, the wider designs of that community's got for to create a new hub.
Well,
how do you bring all that together?
Part of any review is about understanding the context, and understanding context is not just understanding the physical context, but understanding the emotional context, if you like, or the local authority will have a big say in that. We'll have the community input, yes, but we're a design. As a design panel, you look at all the evidence. So as part of looking at all the evidence, that will be that, we'll have input from all of those people, one would hope, in a manageable group of people who are discussing the station design. I mean, we have to be careful about what our job as design panel is. We're not there to be HS2's community liaison arm. We are there to make sure that they deliver on their design vision, and so we'll take all of those things into account as much as we're able.
I think you do it well.
Is there a chance that HS2 will have Euston put into the long grass and actually it will be a terminus of Royal Oak because of the political quagmire at Euston, and the time frame of the oversight developments which will help fund the station? So Route 1 the street it might take some time, and I just wonder what your view is. I know we're deviating from design.
No, is that within your? Is that within your?
No, I don't make those kind of decisions, and it's going. As it's going through the parliamentary process as we speak, in the petitioning process as we speak.
Yeah, you might want to speak to John later.
Sadie, I want to ask a question about, I guess, listening. You talked a lot about listening today, and confidence and leadership. So anyone who listened to last night's speech by Hilary Benn in the House would be very aware of the power of a well-reasoned argument. So effectively, I think yesterday morning they were predicting maybe a majority of 50 in terms of vote. And there are a few really well-reasoned arguments that came out of listening last night. You've talked a lot about listening today. Can you tell us a little bit about what you think your role is in leadership? Leadership not necessarily from the front of HS2 and in the Infrastructure Commission, and how that can A, speed things up, and B, cut costs by... so what I'm really asking is the confidence that comes from listening and good leadership, how can that help to speed things up and cut costs?
Within HS2, let's take HS2 as an example, in terms of leadership, they have a group of people who absolutely believe in their design vision. They're absolutely... They believe in the power of design. They believe that innovation will cut cost and time. Now, that's a group of people who've kind of bought into that. How then, when you are employing 60 people a month, as HS2 are at the moment, how do you make sure that belief is engendered into the, as I said before, the DNA of the organisation? That is their challenge. That is a big challenge. And how you design that process is something that I'm consistently asking them. So it's part of my job is to question how they will deliver that vision. And delivering that vision, and you're quite right, is not just about leading it from the front. And I'm talking about board as well. So I'm saying who's challenging these questions at board level? I'm not just asking about who are those, how are you making sure that those people within the organisation know what the design vision is, understand it, and understand how to deliver it, but how are those members, how's the board also tying back into that? So it's doing, infiltrating that is yes, it's about leadership, is about great vision and about being able to say what you believe, but that's not enough when you've got that many people to get hold of, if you like. Yeah.
Because I imagine that an organisation that is growing at that speed, hanging on to the culture is really is a critical thing.
Well, building a culture
Building a
that
culture,
quickly is, but they have they do lots of lunch and learn sessions. We're really well attended. I go in, I give talks, trying to.
I totally agree with you that it's the environment that is created, which is essential to being able to encourage people to produce good design and solve those difficult problems all the way across. And it sounds like you individually are being allowed, which sounds great, to keep on asking those questions. And that almost sounds to me a very separate role from what the design panel is presumably doing. Or are you involving the rest of the design panel also in asking those questions about the culture of the organisation?
I get to ask the questions with the big cheeses at the top. And that's the only difference. I would hope and assume that all of those people involved will be questioning and asking and pushing, because I can't do it alone.
But you've got some pretty big cheeses on the panel, haven't you?
I have got cheeses on the panel.
But no, presumably making sure that the people on the panel are sufficiently confident, knowledgeable, experienced, and senior is part of it, isn't it?
No, I don't.
But also empowered to ask questions about organisation,
Yes.
as opposed to just what's being presented as design.
Yeah, and exactly, and that's absolutely critical, and it isn't, and that's why I'm hoping that as we move forward, we are able to step outside of those sort of classic review type. Because it isn't just about reviewing what's on the board. It's about reviewing the process that has, that they've gone through to get there. And that's exactly what I would hope that those the panel members will be doing.
You gave a lovely example of your office of how you walk around, I think you said on Tuesdays, and talk to everybody. And I completely agree. Our businesses are about people. But how do I, as an SME, as I become the size of AECOM ahead. Thank you for the sponsoring.
Time to buy AECOM.
How on earth can you keep that connectivity, that listening, as you become significantly large?
You have to encourage, everybody to do it. I mean, it's as simple as that. If your office is communicating with each other, if you can get a culture where people are having those conversations, albeit that you make sure everybody does design crits or in small groups, or you'll gather together at certain, I don't know how many thousands of you there are at AECOM. I don't run a big, huge corporate organisation. I can only imagine that, again, it's talking about culture. It's how culturally do you change the way that you work? How do you culturally change the way that you converse between, who you see as your line manager, or to the part ones. And in my organisation, the part ones are listened to as much as the long-time architects, and their views are as useful and taken seriously, I think, as much as anything else. So I think it's just about value. How do you value those people in your organisation, and how do you tell them that you value them? You have to constantly remind not only yourself but those people around you that they are valued. And I don't know how you do that other than talking to them. And if it isn't the directors who are talking to them, then it should be, the people next to them.
Just going back to the management design aspect, I think it's interesting actually that our designers are seen worldwide as leading and still get involved in huge projects around the world, to great influence. And yet you look at how we've allowed our industry to generate a marketplace in the UK, and that's, I think, from the whole range of it, right from the client's inception to the back end delivery, we seem to have managed to create a system that's become hugely bureaucratic, where every designer and everybody involved in design is standing for themselves, with the consequence that we probably have the most inefficient design delivery in the world. And our projects, if you look at the percentage of project costs that we spend on bricks and mortar, it's probably the smallest of any country in the world, because we spend so much on doing all the other stuff. Of course, HS2 and those other things about it, it's already caught in this trap where we spent £1 billion and we haven't turned the sod. Can you see a way that we can turn this round?
That's a big ask, but Sadie,
Well, I turn it back. I turn it back to all you lot sitting here. You know, I mean, it's in a sense, one person's not going to be able to generate it. One person can inspire. One person can, or, you know, a group of people can inspire the industry to take up that mantle. But it means that there has to be some sort of sea change in order for that to happen. And you know, if you can do it through a project and, you know, lead by example, you know, I believe very much that HS2 shouldn't be it shouldn't be the people in HS2 who are leading by design, you know, leading by example. It should be the project that's leading by example. So you should be able to look at the finished product and say, wow, you know, how did we get there so quickly and so, you know, efficiently?
Well, it sounds like what you're trying to create, or what you're trying to help HS2 to be, is a project which is very open to new ideas, whether it's in procurement or in design or wherever. And so what? So Steve should knock on your door and keep his ideas coming through.
It's you know, absolutely. But it's it's a massive task. I don't underestimate it.
Sign them up. Peter.
Just quickly go back to the National Infrastructure Commission now. You mentioned you've mentioned the 3 areas that you're going to be looking at. My concern and our concern is that 2 of the 3, the issues around transport in the north and transport in London, are already being addressed by organisations like TfL and Transport for the North. Is there a danger that what you're producing is going to be simply a restatement that we need Crossrail 2 and that we need to improve the links in the Trans-Pennine Express that those organisations are already going to come up with? And what are you hoping to add to it through the NIC that isn't already going to be done by TfN, TfL on their side?
One thing that the Commission can do is look at the interdependencies, you know, rather than just, you know, look at these things individually. We can see them, you know, we can look at them in the whole. Are we rubber stamping? No, is the answer. The Commission is extremely clear that it will remain independent, and it will be, yes, it will take all of those existing pieces of research, all those existing conversations, and unpick and, you know, and look rigorously at whether or not they stack up. So there's plenty of things that, you know, that need better and bigger investigation. If you look at the work that's been done already, you know. So
but if you concluded that Crossrail 2, for instance, shouldn't go ahead, is that an option that you could move forward with?
I'm sure we could conclude if we looked at all the evidence. We're definitely there to ask the big questions, ask the difficult questions, and to come up with recommendations. And if the recommendations don't suit, then the answer is, as I understand it, that you know, if the government don't take them on board, they have to tell us why they haven't.
So you are that disruptive element.
Sadie, my question is quite simple, really. I wonder, from a user experience, have you had first-hand experience of a piece of infrastructure either in the UK or across the globe where you've sort of taken a step back and thought, this is absolutely fantastic, for whatever reason, thought, wouldn't this be fantastic to have in the UK? We don't currently have it in the UK, wouldn't it be fantastic?
I have to say I've tried hard to keep those thoughts to myself for now. And that's more because I'm interested in not necessarily examples. You know, there's best practice, obviously, all the way around the world. You can look at great examples of great architecture. What I think is a great example of fantastic engineering might not be yours. You know, so it's the experience for me that matters. And if you're thinking about HS2, it's saying it's going to deliver world-class, world-beating. Now that means there isn't anything in the world that it needs. You know, it should be better than. And you if you look to other examples, then you're immediately hamstringing yourself. You need to be looking to things beyond. So that's where I'd rather be looking than saying.
So setting the example for the rest of the world rather than copying.
I mean, it's not copying. I mean, designers know that everything you've ever designed, somebody's done it before.
Three very, very quick. Make them quick. Sue.
Yeah, Sue Kershaw, CH2M. I'm interested. You've talked about looking into HS2. How about looking out and getting best practice from the ODA, from Crossrail to other organisations and sharing that, and then using that as guiding principles for your panel, bringing those 45 people.
Yeah, there's huge. There are many people who've been involved in all of those projects, not only on the panel but actually within HS2. Absolutely. There's absolutely no reason for making a mistake that's been done before, but also not looking to those things that have really worked and really made a difference. So when I say you shouldn't be looking, you should be taking and extracting what is the most useful, whether it be good or bad, and learning from it. Whether or not that happens is all about communication. It's all about unsilent. It's that classic conundrum. Have you done it before? Yes. Have you talked to the person who's done it before? No. It's then why haven't you? So these things. It's like the housing crisis has been happening. It's not just now. It's been happening for the last, since the boom of the post-war. So it's not. None of these things are new. All I think we can do is just to try to engage, to inspire, to make sure that as an industry we work together to try to solve some of them in a grown-up way.
Design quality, design value. You said it, we all know it. That good design actually can be cheaper, save money. Very often that saving is sometime in the future, not necessarily bottom line. But also there's a huge value in the delight factor which you describe and the thing you can't put numbers to.
No.
As designers, we love to know that the organisations that we make our proposals to are valuing design in the way we'd like them to and giving it due measure in the assessment of our proposals.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the cynic in me knows that on countless occasions they pay lip service to it and they assess us through 60-40 or 70-30 quality price split, and actually somehow or other it's always the price that wins.
Yeah.
That isn't the case in this project.
How can you? What is the process, and what kind of assurances can you give that somehow in HS2 the quality will win through?
I can tell you that I have been hugely preoccupied since the moment I walked through the door in making sure that they have or at least they are thinking right from the point of procurement, right from the point of incentivisation, right from the point of writing those documents, that somehow we make sure that the long-term vision isn't kneecapped, if you like, right from the beginning. It's a preoccupation. I talk about it a great deal with every level of HS2. They're cognizant of it. They know that I'm a little Rottweiler at their ankle. Oh God, Sadie, not you again. No, not at all. They are. It is something that we are. That the design panel is the first thing the design panel are looking at. It's an issue that I know matters hugely, and I know that unless they get that right, it's going to be very, very difficult for us as a panel to make sure that they, So I'm absolutely flying the flag of.
Well, on both HS2 and also all the projects that are coming out of the National Infrastructure Commission, I think that is probably central to what you're trying to achieve, and it's making people think further ahead.
Yeah.
It's making people think about the value of design and the way that it impacts the customer throughout the whole life of that infrastructure.
Yeah. But how you tie that back into a set of documents, written documents, is, we all know how difficult it is, and how do we make sure that ultimately you can rely on an industry that just doesn't.
To finish up, I suppose on that point, you have talked about the hunger and the passion that you've seen in this country for making big projects happen.
Yeah.
I mean, do you
It's about
think?
time, isn't
well,
it?
I mean, but,
Well, there are a few great examples.
I mean, I suppose, in terms of delivering that hunger and passion in the way that Ian perhaps talks about, in the way that the industry really aspires to, in the way that Steve talks about, do you think that we will see a project like HS2 really, I suppose, turning the corner, not just having hunger and passion to deliver, but hunger and passion to deliver the world's leading, a globally inspiring new bit of infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, we should. You said it. What
makes you think that this is a different process, and what makes you think that you, Sadie Morgan, can change that?
I don't think I can. I don't think I can change anything. All I can do is to say to as many people that I meet that good design can change these. Can help change. Can help turn this project into something that is well-beating. And if everybody starts to believe in that, if everybody starts to engage with that, then there's a fighting chance. I'm not going to change anything. I have the belief that the industry can, but it has to get off its proverbial and do it. And we should. We have the capability. It's not without. It's not outside of the realms of possibility. I think.
Sadie,
so why shouldn't it happen? Why not?
No, I believe you. Sadie Morgan, thanks very much for being so open and honest about the big challenge. I think, genuinely, I think you've got a huge challenge ahead on all. But I think
I might as well go lie down with a hot cold towel
I
over
believe
my
you.
head.
I believe you. I believe in you.
Good.
Thanks very much for joining us. Round of applause. Thanks for getting involved. Thanks, Sadie. Thanks a lot.